What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, James Loriello, and today I'm so excited to bring you guys episode 62 with none other than sub-ultra track and road standout Tyler McCandless. You guys might be familiar with that name, as you absolutely should be. I feel like Tyler was on the podium of some of the most competitive sub-ultra trail races in 2024, and he's just absolutely now getting started. We had a really exciting conversation. We talked all about his 4-time Olympic trials marathon qualifiers, which is pretty bananas as he aims to kind of go for his 5th over the next few years. We talked all about some of his goals. We talked about his training. We talked about his 2024 season and kind of what he's got planned for 2025, as he has big goals to try and make another U.S. team. Last year, he represented Team USA in Italy in the VK after placing second at the Loon Mountain Race. And this year, he plans to make the world's team for the USA, as he will be participating at the Broken Arrow VK as well as the Sunapee Scramble. Guys, really fun conversation. Tyler is just a consummate professional. The way he approaches everything numerically and just his breakdown and the science behind everything is just really exciting. Like I said, he's definitely someone that will be continuing to compete in the sport for a very long time. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one. Absolute favorite of mine. Without further ado, Mr. Tyler McCandless.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Tyler McCandless, welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How are you, man?
I'm great. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm so happy we were finally able to do this. I know the winter's a tough time, man. Especially I know you're super busy. You're in Fort Collins. I'm down in the Springs. We just went through a big move, so I've been doing a lot more Zoom interviews than in person. So I'm happy we were able to finally put this together.
Yeah, definitely.
How's your day going? What's going on these days?
It's good. I just was in San Francisco for work for the last couple days, and after it being -16 when I drove to the airport, I was pretty happy to run on some trails in 50-degree weather in the morning in San Francisco. And it was good to get back yesterday too.
I don't blame you, man. I have some family that lives in South Florida, and I have been looking at ticket prices all week. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been cold. It's been really brutal. So.
It's been cold. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So how about this? We already kind of introduced you. Audience knows who you are. Maybe talk a little bit about your background. And I know you've had a very long relationship with running. So maybe give us the condensed version and I'll kind of pull it apart from there and we can go with questions from there.
Yeah, great. I started a very abbreviated version, soccer player in high school, wanted to play at Penn State. And I did I did track my freshman year of high school to say, I don't want to get in shape for soccer. And I broke 5 minutes in the mile in my first mile race on the track and was like, oh, this is really fun. And 4 years later, I was running at Penn State and I've really fallen in love with the sport and continued to improve every year. When I went to school in my 5th year, I was All-American in my very last race in the 10,000 meter. So it's just consistent improvement. And I thought, well, I can continue this improvement in road races. So I started marathoning back in 2010. I did the California International Marathon in my debut, ran 2:17, qualified for the 2012 Olympic Marathon Trials. Been road racing since then, mostly road racing. So 2012, 2016, 2020, and earlier this year, I competed at the Olympic Marathon Trials. So I've done 4. But in 2020, when COVID happened, there was a cancellation of so many road races. And it was we can't get big crowds together. It doesn't really work in big cities. It's hard to control this. And I thought, well, track races will be open. So I got in ripping good, 1500, 5K, 10K shape, PR'd in all three at the age of 34, 35 at the time. And I thought I had a chance to make the US track and field championships. And I went out in like 14:03 for the first 5K and the 10K. And then I ended up running 28:50, which was too soft of a time to get in. And I was like, I got to do something fun. And the Vail GoPro games had a 5K and 10K. And I was like, oh, it's on the trails, but like I'm in good 5K, 10K shape. I just ran 13:48 for 5K. I'm like, I can do this. I won the 5K and was second to Joe in the 10K. And the trail community was just so awesome. Like everyone, it wasn't like so much the race result that was amazing. It was the community, the fun. We brought our 2-year-old, and it's like kind of like an Olympic style event of like you're watching kayakers and slackliners and like competing in trail races and seeing mountain bikers. It's just like such a fun, outdoor event. And from there, I was like, what trail races could I find? And I think my wife found Rendezvous Mountain Hill Climb on the drive home, looking on her phone, and then did that one. And that kind of got me into the trails. So, in 2021, that was like the introduction. And then this past year, I've had kind of more of a season focus on the trails and kind of dabbled in the roads and on the trails as well.
Dude, I love it. First of all, what an amazing story. But even more so, like, I just love to see that you've kind of like entered the space in 2021. Obviously a sub 14-minute 5K guy, which like you sub 14-minute 5K guys are so nasty on the trails, man. Especially in like these shorter like Cirque Series races and in your 5, 10K. And it just translates really well. So it's exciting for me to have a conversation with someone like you because I'm a big sub ultra guy, love sub ultra. And you seem to just really cross over and fit that mold perfectly. And then kind of to add to that, one of the things I find really interesting is you're seeing a lot of athletes like your Christian Allens of the world, right? He's a marathoner. He's also on the trails, and you very much are in that same mold where you're competing at a high level, on the track and on the roads, but as well as on the trails. So it's just really fun to see new, guys and gals coming into the space, and just mixing it up and having success at both ends. So there used to be this like moniker that trail was slow, and maybe yes, on the ultra side, but sub ultra is so competitive, right?
And it's so intense. I think what I've learned, is that the uphill especially is all about having a high VO2 max. Like you got to be capable of very intense work. So like 400s on the track, do 16 by 400 on the track, that translates really well to being good at like a VK. Now you have to have some specificity, but like it's surprising. And how if I'm like really fit and ripping it on the track, I know I'm ready to go crush it on the mountains as long as I've done, enough vertical. Now, when I did that first Vail, I hadn't done any hills and I was wicked sore. I don't recommend like doing nothing on the hills, but I think it's really fun to see that transition. And the sub ultra is really competitive. As you mentioned, Christian Allen, Joe Gray, I mean, they're fierce competitors on the roads and cross country as well. And it's really fun when you're hammering up a mountain as hard as you can with those guys. I don't know. It's just the purity of the sport. It's what I love.
Dude, I love it too. I mean, and it's been really exciting to see someone like you come in and like, listen, man, and you've raced Joe quite a few times, and Joe's our quote unquote GOAT, if you will. And it's fun to, see guys like you hang with him and be able to like push him, like Loon I followed Loon pretty closely. I know John Aziz as well. He's a Colorado Springs guy. So seeing all of you guys up at the front and just the way you've been able to push it and stuff like that with Joe is pretty cool. It's nice to see how much competition is up front. And dude, I can't wait for this season. Like 2025 is going to be wild. We'll get into that a little bit later. First off, I do want to backtrack a little bit to growing up in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania too. I don't think too far from you actually. I'm from Bucks County, but further down like Fairless Hills area.
Oh, okay. So Northampton County, I went to Northampton High School. So just nice. A county or two northeast of you.
Yeah. That's so crazy. I moved when I was just before high school. So I moved when in 8th grade. Family moved to Florida. So down for the sunshine. But yeah, I'm very much a Pennsylvania guy through and through. And I can't say I'm a giant Penn State fan. Most of my family went to Penn State, or a lot of them have, like my cousins. And yeah, it's been, dude, I'm impressed. I do have to say, like, how far you guys got in the playoff this year. I got to hand it to you for the college football playoff. Like, it's been fun. It was fun to follow.
I got really into it, more into it than I probably have been in any other year. And I learned a lot from Franklin and his leadership skills and coaching a team and just how he interacted with the players. It was really a fascinating thing because you really see he's built that program in 10 or 11 years, and there's the transfer portal, and it's not like been consistent. But he talks about he wanted it to be transformative, not transactional in terms of his experience. And that was very much my experience as Penn State, is I had coaches that it was about transforming us as individuals into being better people, not only better runners. And I just have nothing but great things to say about my experience at Penn State. And it was fun to relive it a little bit. I'm actually, ironically, my next race is next Friday. I'm going back to Penn State to run an indoor 5K to kind of sharpen those wheels. And haven't raced there since 2010. But yeah, it was a good college football playoff.
Oh man, that's so exciting, dude. Good luck too. That's going to be fun to go back up to Happy Valley and get to spend some time out there. Yeah, you guys get like the best athletes, man. Like Bo Nickel, who's now he's like an MMA athlete, but was a former, D1, obviously like one of the best wrestlers ever to come out of Penn State. Like just on all of like levels and facets of the sport. It's interesting to see like how the Big Ten. I don't know. I'm a big Big Ten guy. So yeah.
Agreed.
So dude, you have an interesting, one of the things that struck me about you is not just are you a family man, but you're able to balance so much. You're able to balance competing at the highest level of the sport as an athlete. You're a family man. And on top of that, you have a very serious job. Like, can you talk a little bit about, because I just find it so interesting. Can you talk a little bit about like what you do for a living?
Yeah, so I got a bachelor's, master's, and PhD all from Penn State. But my PhD, I was doing research at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder. So I spent 3 years doing research on, it was solar power forecasting. So I was using machine learning to try to predict solar power. At that point, 2012-ish, there was minimal data. It wasn't as solar as dominating as it is now, maybe not dominating, but as integrated as it is now. So it's really at the forefront of that research. And I loved it. I was like, oh, this is a fascinating paradigm shift in the energy industry is moving towards renewables. They're now lowest cost, machine learning, weather, data science, it all fits in. And it's this really fascinating combination of the three. So I've been very fortunate since my PhD. I've worked at various jobs that have been related to that. So right now, I lead the machine learning science team, and I'm general manager of our science services program at a company, Equilibrium Energy. We are a battery company. We're trying to help optimize our battery handling, the forecasting side, very weather dependent, renewables really driving the market. Leading a team. The team is incredibly intelligent, hardworking, and we're kind of just taking that gritty approach to trying to make a positive impact in the world and bending the climate curve. So it's really fun. It's like intellectually stimulating. It's very, deep focus, and it gives me a really nice balance to the day. It's a little hard to juggle at times with, kids and my wife, and I love them so dearly and, want to be with them a lot. Also want to run, also want to kick ass at my job. So I think I've heard Jared Ward say, like, you're always juggling balls and you're going to drop them, and just don't drop the same one every time. And that one really resonated with me, is like, sometimes I dropped the family ball. I just went on a work trip and the kids were sick and that wasn't great. Like, I can't drop the family ball the next time. Right. So it's definitely a balance, but I love it. And I feel like I'm truly living in the present moment when life is full and you're doing impactful stuff, whether that's family, running, or your passion, or your work. So I really feel like I'm thriving being this busy.
Wow, man, I love it. I think the audience would really appreciate maybe like, how do you make the time in your day to run? Are you just extremely deliberate about, I have to get in the gym at this time, or I have to get on the track at this time? Like, or are you more fluid? Like, oh, I've got a free hour, I'm going to go out and just, sneak this in. Like, how do you do it?
Early morning. That's okay. Like really like get up, cup of coffee, and try to get out the door. Like, do a couple lunges, get my glutes activated, and try to get going. So I try to finish my run by 7 a.m. Now, that was Levi used to sleep, my oldest, until 7. So it was great. I'd come back and then help get him up and have breakfast with them. Now Levi and Jack, my youngest, they tend to get up at like 6. So they're already up by the time I get back. But it's a really nice balance where like I get to have my focused energies on running and putting together good quality work first thing. and then I shower, and then I'm with the boys for an hour, 90 minutes, and Kristen gets to go do her run. So she gets her time in the morning. And then by 8:30, I'm starting the job, and I've had time with the family. I've had the time to run and getting the bulk of my work done then. Ideal world, it's summertime, and then I can get out for a 3 or 4 mile jog later, and Levi's on his bike, and I'm pushing a stroller, and Kristen's biking with me, and it's, we get family time and some running time together. But really prioritizing that time between 5:30 and 7 a.m. for being focused running is definitely how I make it work. Now, winter's hard. Like right now, it's hard. It's like it's cold, it's dark. So the treadmill is my friend. I just have to use it by necessity. But it gets to be more of a chore in January a bit, some of the days. But then summer's fantastic when it's sunny and perfect weather at 5:30 in Colorado every day.
Yeah, it's hard to beat, man. Our summers are beautiful. No, I appreciate the synopsis and breakdown on like how you structure just getting out in the morning. I know it's super hard. Even, dude, winter is the worst. I personally, I'll admit the same thing. Like I spend way more time on the treadmill in the winter just because it's just so much easier to go get a flat, easy run in, and as opposed to having to go out and put a park on and, shedding layers and just getting out the door is hard. Maybe can you talk a little bit about, I'm so interested in like how you train. And the reason I'll say that is because like you're more or less like this dual sport athlete where you are track and road, obviously, and the trails. During the winter, like you said, you're getting ready for a 5K and you're doing a lot more speed stuff. Do you even touch the trails, or are you just more so on the roads?
Great question. So I've been coached by Steve Jones for over 12 years now. And Jonesy, he broke the world record in the marathon back in, I think it was 83 or 84, ran 207. Was also, I think he ran 401 for the mile back in the 70s.
Wow.
Ran in the Olympics in the 10,000 meter. He's a UK legend. And Jonesy has just been a phenomenal mentor. And when I lived in Boulder, we moved to Fort Collins about 4 years ago. I used to join for 2 or 3 workouts a week plus long run. And now I mostly do things on my own, but still follow the general program. It's really simple. Like we don't overcomplicate things. I'm not doing double thresholds. It's not overcomplicated workouts. It's Tuesday, Thursday. Right now I'm doing 3 workouts a week. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is basically 3 to 5 minute reps hard on Tuesdays. Thursdays, a track workout. Friday or Saturdays is then short hill repeats, and then a long run on Sunday. And sometimes I shift those days around, especially with the weather and work and trying to coordinate best. But it's really worked for me to have the season of like 3 workout weeks, and then I'll shift to doing like Tuesday, Friday hard workouts, long run Saturday, medium distance Wednesday if I'm more doing longer stuff. But it's very much keeping it simple. And then in the summer when I transition more to the trails, every Wednesday I try to meet Adrian, who he's the one Leadville 100 times or a couple times, Leadville 100 a couple times. He's a phenomenal mentor for trail stuff, and we run towers and we run in Horsetooth, and we make sure we get enough vert in. So I try to get 2 good quality trail runs per week. And sometimes I transition, like I said, doing hill repeats. I'll do a 3-mile time trial on towers. And that's like 2,000 feet of elevation gain in just over 3 miles. So yeah.
It's pretty solid. Do you spend any time in the gym? Like, do you like lift at all?
So I didn't used to. I used to joke that I did 20 push-ups and got sore, so I didn't for like 4 years. And I realized this fall, my one hip had been kind of just like a little off, and my glute wasn't firing right. I worked at the PT, and now I've been following a strength routine twice a week. It's about 45 minutes each session, and I've noticed a considerable improvement by doing a bit of strength work. So I'm really excited for how I feel right now. I think it's going to lead to some bigger and better things in 2025. So it's kind of fun. You asked that question, I'm like, a year ago I said absolutely not, I don't do anything. And now I'm like, that was probably a mistake. Now I'm doing the right stuff, and it's targeted towards being, pretty running specific.
It's interesting, man. Like I was not really big into lifting, and then I had Cam Smith on the podcast. I think I say this like every episode, but he blew my mind. I mean, granted, he's a little bit different because he's a ski mountaineer also, probably that's more predominantly his sport. But just from a power perspective and just like trying to get what he's looking for, like he spends like 3 or 4 days in the gym, like a week, and like no joke, like hour-long sessions. So that got me turned on to the idea of like, all right, well, how much can you incorporate this into like running without overdoing it? And I'd say like the biggest thing for me has just been more so injury prevention and some power, like more plyometric to apply that to power, like getting off like a really hard, like I guess a heavy like deadlift, and then doing box jumps right immediately, stuff like that for more plyometric, like just to have the poppiness, like have more pop in the leg. But yeah, it's interesting, like more so for just injury prevention. It's really helped a lot. Like I was kind of surprised. Like last season, dude, I was getting like weird back pain, and it was because my hip flexors were too tight. And I was like, is this me getting old? Like, what is this? So yeah, that's my next question is you're mid to late 30s, right?
38. Yep.
38. Okay. Do you feel like father time at all? Like is getting you, or cause you seem to be just as dominant as ever. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. About 2 years ago, I went through a more deep mental training exercise because I was like, all right, I'm getting to be 36. Like my VO2 max is going to be slowing down here. It's going to be, decreasing. That is science. Like I'm not going to be the one that science doesn't, interact with. So it will slow down. But right now I'm still improving across the board. I mean, I had a good session of like 20 by 200 just the other weekend and was doing a lot in 30, 31 seconds. And it didn't feel, too aggressive. So I feel like I still have the wheels, and I've been really smart. Jonesy's been a great coach, and he's always kept some of the speed in and doing enough strides, enough of the shorter, faster work that I've kept on that VO2 max system and that training. And I think that really helps with the longevity in the sport. I think oftentimes a lot of people transition towards marathon training that's very long duration, long tempos, the double thresholds. I'm concerned that doesn't really necessarily help for like longevity, and especially like the marathon and some of those events where you also need to continue to improve your neuromuscular system. So yeah, I feel like I know that I'm going to be slowing down, and I did that deep work to understand like what are my core values, why am I really doing this, and I just love the pursuit of trying to get better and trying to be the best I can be. And maybe when I'm 45, that's not as fast in the 1500 is what I can do right now, but I'm excited for the next challenge. And I don't know if I'm going to hit 40 and be like, I really want to try to break my mile PR, or if I want to run 100-mile. Like things will change and evolve over time, but I really want to show long-term consistency. And I think my ultimate biggest goal is how many Olympic trials marathons can I qualify for? Like I'd like to qualify for more than anyone else because I'm showing that long, consistent pursuit in the same direction. And I think that is more important than anything. And yes, I'll start to slow down, but I think goals will just shift. And if I keep the core values of trying to be the best I can be and being positive influence while doing it, it's going to be really fun next few years.
I love that, man. And it's so crazy. Like, what is the record now? Like, cause I know you've done since 2012, so you've had 4. So like is the record like 6, like 5?
I think it's probably 5. It's a little questionable because if you get before 2012, you could qualify off like a 5K time to run in the marathon trials. So like, I don't know how much you count that. I feel like you should have to do a marathon to qualify for the marathon trials. Right. Or some people have qualified and then not competed. So I think it's 5 though.
Dude, you're so close. Oh my gosh. The next one's a big one. Obviously we're a little ways away, but like that's an amazing goal. And it's interesting to me too, from the age perspective, and especially as technology gets better, medicine gets better, so many things improve, even shoe technology, nutrition, and just our understanding of the sport. To me, I mean, like you see Joe might be 41. I know he's over 40. So I think he's 41. Yeah. Max is like 43, 44. So at least on the trail side, even in the sub ultra spectrum, you could have, a very long career, and it could continue to go even, I mean, you see even like Ludovic Pomeray on the ultra sides, like, I think he's like 47, 48, something like that, and goes and wins Hard Rock. So it's interesting and inspiring to someone like me. I turned 34 in like 2 weeks. So I'm getting there. And you think about it, and it's something you do, like, I don't know, after you turn 30, I'm like, I'm not really as excited for my birthdays anymore. Cause it's like, your prime is leaving you, but that's not necessarily the case at all. Like you can continue to be in your prime, not just from a mindset perspective, but as if you train hard and work and be consistent, like you can keep this going for a while. So
I had a professor at Penn State who I was ironically on a run with, but we were more talking about like life things. It was the day of my dissertation defense. And he was in his 50s and he was saying how each decade kept getting better. And he's like, you think that like, oh, the next decade, I just turned 30. Now things are going to get harder. I turned 40 and now I'm old. And now I'm 50. Now I'm like very old. And he's like, but you gain more experience. You might have more freedom because you've been working and able to build up your finances more, and now you feel more secure. And he's like, each time you just kind of build on it, and if you just stay present, it only gets better every year and every decade. And I kind of internalized that and thought about that with running too. And it's like, what happens if I'm 47 and I'm competing at my 7th Olympic trials and my kids are in like middle school and they're able to like, or high school, and they're able to come and watch? Like that could be the most impactful race of my life. Like it doesn't matter if it isn't my fastest marathon, it could be the most impactful one that I run. So like, and when you think about those core values, you start not being as afraid of slowing down and just more excited about the opportunity that's right in front of you, and working right now in the present moment for that next opportunity.
Yeah. The excitement of just being there, man. It means it's a big deal. I really want to get into your 2024 season. Obviously you had some success. GoPro was a great race. You had some great success at GoPro. Rendezvous. We got to talk about Rendezvous because that's 4 in a row for you at Rendezvous now. And then what is it? 2 or 3 wins, something like that. So you've had great success there. First person to go back to back under an hour, which is bananas. We could talk about that course. I'd say let's first start with GoPro. I know we talked a little bit about it. You raced the 5K this year?
5K and 10K, and then I did a team for the Pepe's face-off.
What'd you think of Pepe's, man? I was supposed to go last year, and then it was my mom's birthday, and she was in town, so I didn't wind up going. But long story.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a different challenge. It's gnarly. It's kind of like doing like mile repeats. Like you hurt really hard going up a hill and then you run back down. And with the relay, then I tag somebody else in and then they did a lap. So it was less intimidating than just 30 minutes of hammering on up and down Pepe's as hard as you can.
I feel like that's a little more fun too, like where it's not just consistent, where you can just, tag someone in helps a little bit.
Yeah. And it was the third event of the weekend. So it's a lot of racing, but I had done Pittsburgh Marathon early May. So that was then early June. So it wasn't a big turnaround. And I thought honestly thought the 5K would just be like a bit of a rust buster of racing hard on the trails again. And then Cade had a tremendous run, and I had so much fun running that race with him and just going back and forth. And, story of my life, I kind of get slaughtered on the downhill technical part when he just like flew by me, and he ran tremendously well in there. But it was a great opportunity to just like test racing, and it was a good start to the season. And then I did the 10K 2 days later. Joe won, and I was 20-ish seconds back, but I was really close to him through like 4.5, 5 miles. And then on a technical downhill section, I kind of gave up some ground. So it was kind of the classic early season races for me of like just not being quite confident yet on some of the downhill stuff. And yeah, it just kind of got the racing started. And then Pepe's was just fun. I had a teammate here in Fort Collins, and we did it together, and it was a cool experience. I got to run hard at Pepe's 3 times, and yeah.
Yeah, man, GoPro is a great weekend like event that they put on. Like, it's so cool.
It is.
Yeah, that's one. Are you going to plan on going back this year, you think, for 2025?
Yeah, it'll be a busy June, but definitely.
Okay, nice. Dude, let's talk about Loon. I'd say that's like one of the crown jewels of the season for you on the trail side, I would imagine. Like, I know both John and Joe, and both of them had like really sung your praises, obviously. Like, you guys had a really dynamic race, against each other, the 3 of you going up Loon, I guess upper walking boss or whatever. So maybe talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like, because they painted it like an interesting experience for me, because I know they trained together, right? So they knew like they had like a little strategy. They were going to see what they could do and work together. And then here you are doing your thing, and you just kept it going and kind of broke John a little bit. Like, can you talk about that experience? And like, by the way, you two are very similar people. We'll talk about that after.
I listen to your podcast with him. He seems like a great guy. I've only chatted with him a little bit, but yeah, he's a tough competitor, and has had a great career. Yeah, it was a very interesting race. Obviously, there was great talent there, qualifying for Italy, it being a U.S. championship. And I knew I was really fit. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go out with the leaders and see what happens. And a few people went out hard early. Andy, I forget who else was leading. And they kind of fell back. And all of a sudden I was leading at like mile 1. And I'm like, this wasn't really the plan that I had come up with. I kind of was hoping that like Joe and I would just pull away and we were just going to be fitter and then we'd work together. Because it was really about like, to me, it was almost like a prelim. It was like, I want to get to Italy. I want to be top 2. And all of a sudden I'm in the lead. And I'm like, oh man, well, I got to keep the foot on the gas here. So I just like kept hammering and I had such a big lead. I couldn't see anyone. I couldn't hear anyone. There wasn't cheering behind me.
That's terrifying.
It is, because I'm like, I know the folks behind me are really good. And I'm like, did I just like go out wrong? Like, what am I doing? But I felt strong. So then you get to a part where it's like, it's probably about 5 miles and you climb up and then you go plunging down and you turn and then you start upper walking boss. And I hadn't seen upper walking boss. I just knew it was really, really steep. So I'm like, well, it'll be fine. I'll just like do my best on this and figure it out. And I hit that turn, I start coming up, and then I could hear people cheering for Joe. But I'm like, on my watch, it's like, oh, I got 15 seconds. Like, this is fine. But like, I wasn't going to risk anything because I didn't want to blow up and then like not finish or really struggle to finish and then get passed by 2 people. So I kind of played it conservative, and then he caught me and I looked down at the watch and it showed like 5.99 miles. And it's like a 6.1 mile race or something like that. So we're 0.1 from the finish when he finally passed me. And I was like, all right, just get second, get to Italy. It's great. But yeah, I literally thought for about 5.5 miles that race, I'm like, I'm winning my first national championship. I pulled away on the downhill sections. Wow, how did I have such a big lead? And then he was a monster on upper walking boss. And I learned a lot. I walked when he did a nice like fartlek kind of going up. And his strategy was way better, and he was super strong. So yeah, it was a very interesting race. Definitely different than how I thought it was going to go, but it was a great experience.
Dude, so rad. Thanks for painting that picture, because I heard their side and how they worked it, and it was just interesting to get get your perspective too, of everybody being there on the day. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and kudos to you guys. I mean, and congratulations on qualifying, and we'll talk about the Italy race soon. But yeah, just such a good paint in the picture for the today. Let's talk a little bit about like what your plans are. So are you going to I know you're on the list for Broken Arrow. Do you plan on going to that for the Ascent as well?
Yeah, definitely. I like the Ascent more than the Classic, but I plan to do both. So Sunapee and then Broken Arrow.
Okay. And Sunapee is going to be interesting because it's 2 loops, which makes it, at least strategy wise, it's going to be a completely different game. And then the VK stuff, I feel like that's your jam anyway with Rendezvous. So that should be we're signed up for Broken Arrow, but you didn't race the VK last year, right?
No, I had a work trip to Germany that I
dude, it's a bummer.
Kind of overlapped, and I couldn't pass up that, so I couldn't make it to Broken Arrow.
Oh man, well, I'm very excited to see you this year in that lineup, because the lineup's going to be so stacked. I mean, everybody's going to be there, so it's going to be fun to see like kind of how it all shakes out, if you will. But Sunapee will be cool as well. I will definitely be at Sunapee. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be at Broken Arrow this year, just because like what I want to do with media versus racing, how that works. It's perplexing. Dude, let's talk Rendezvous, because you've had like since 2021 have like just dominated that course. And then you and Joe were the first 2 guys to go under an hour. Maybe talk a little bit about the race itself, its location, course, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Rendezvous is in Jackson Hole, and it's always the first weekend in August. So I always do the Kauai half marathon. That's Labor Day weekend. So at that point, I'm kind of like transitioning to also getting some good half marathon work in. And I've had good trails from like either Vail or Loon or some other races. So like I have like that right combination of like half marathon fitness plus the trails. And then it's 6 point something miles of like flowy single track until the top where it gets kind of rocky. But like that is what I love, is just like hammering for an hour as hard as you can. I don't really love above 10,000 feet. That gets pretty hard at Rendezvous. So I won it the first year when there was construction on the tram. So it finished at the gondola. So you actually finished with a little bit of downhill. It was like an hour or two. The next year I come back and I thought I had it. And I didn't know that last section was like so technical. I thought I was going to break the hour. And it was so foggy, I couldn't see more than like 6 feet in front of me.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up running an hour one and I just missed it. And I was like, I know I can break this. And then the next year, Joe shows up, Andy shows up, and we just hammer fast from the start. And Joe was like 58 minutes and I was like 59. But again, we were together until just that last like mile. And then he was just a monster on the final section. But then this past year, I went 59:59. So I got under by 1 second.
Very nice.
And it's just like really fun. I think it just plays to my strengths.
Yeah, it's a great race, man. I recommend. And it's one of those ones that are like not highly publicized, if you will. So like it's like this really classic thing to put on by Jackson Hole. So yeah, I hope it gets more notoriety and it's like more of a bigger race, because like we don't have too many ascents or like VKs in the States, which is kind of disappointing. So it would be cool to see more. Do you ever plan on doing the Pikes Peak Ascent? Because I feel like you would smoke that course.
Yeah, I would love to. I had a work-related thing this year. We had a summit for the whole company, and it overlapped with that weekend, so wasn't able to make it work in this year. But definitely want to make it work another. Maybe this year. I think depending on Worlds, if I qualify and the timing of things, we'd have to see. But yeah, definitely want to do that.
Yeah, man. Well, if you don't wind up going to Worlds, then yeah, let me know, because I just got on the board. I'm trying to recruit as many elite athletes as possible to the race. We're trying to make it a big deal for the 70th anniversary. So it's, yeah, like I said, I would, love to have you and Joe. I mean, depending on who's at Worlds, duke it out.
Yeah, awesome.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's at a weird time of the year this year, because everything I feel like is happening in September. So have you ever... Sorry, what were you saying?
Everything is in June or September.
Yeah.
Like it's like overloaded with like great races in both. So
June's going to be complicated. Like I feel like for everybody's schedules, because especially if you're going to be at Sunapee, that's June 1st, literally Broken Arrows maybe 2 weeks later, something like that. So it is going to be a very complicated. I think I'm just going to either stay in the Northeast, because I'll be doing a bunch of the Cirque Series races this year, or go back and forth, leave the Northeast and then come back and go to Broken Arrow. But yeah, it's a very complicated schedule. I have no idea. At least August will be quiet. So it'll be, it's nice because I don't know. I love the summertime. So it's nice to be able to train on the home trails, experience the backcountry and just kind of have fun in our own mountains. Now you've got a lot of like hobbies. One of the things I read about you is that you're really into fishing, right?
Yeah, I love fly fishing.
Okay. I've never done it before. It's like highly on my list of things to do, but I feel like it's a very zen, like it's like you can actually like, I don't know. When I say zen, it's like relaxing a little bit more than like having to hit a certain pace or, focus on a workout and stuff like that. Whereas like it's kind of more, I don't know, enjoyable, right?
So I like things that are very much like getting into the present moment. And for me, if I tie my own fly, I'll only use dry flies. I love seeing the fly at the surface. And if I can go out there and spend an hour where I'm just so focused on like the science and the purity of the cast, and then following the fly and then having a fish come up and sip it, it is like, it is like pure enjoyment. And it's very similar to running. It's like the best times are like when you're floating, when you're like working really hard in a race and you're challenging yourself and you're just there and present and the focus gets really narrow. I just love that. And I try to, do the things in life that really, enjoy that.
Yeah. Do you ever like venture out to like Rocky Mountain National Park to go like fly fish out there, or you like hit your, I guess, areas around Fort Collins? Like, what's going on with that?
Pre-kids, my buddies and I would always go to the Bighorn River in Montana every year. That was a big trip.
Oh, wow.
Definitely go to a bunch of places from the Arkansas River, Colorado River, the Big Thompson, and some of the small tributaries too. But with kids, it's been a little bit less of fly fishing, but I'm excited they're like at least getting into fishing now, and it won't be long before Levi's out with me tying flies and catching some trout on the dry fly.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, I got to get into it. My dad, I grew up, like when we moved to Florida, my dad has always been into fishing and like loved it, but like more saltwater, like deep sea and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just so, I don't know. I find it very zen and very relaxing to be able to do that. And I've been longing to like think about like, man, like it would be really cool to link up a bunch of things in the backcountry where you can like run to one location to another and, fly fish and, just take time and just be there, be present, It's it's good stuff. One of the things that I thought was really cool about you is like how many times you've like raced and just slaughtered the Hawaii marathons and half marathon. Can we talk a little bit about your relationship and history with that race?
Yeah. So back in 2011, they had a $15,000 prize purse for all the men who broke 230, all the women who broke 245, and it was like shared. And with a little bit more going to the winner. And I went out there and I won it. Mike Wardian was second. We each got a really nice payday, but it was like the community was amazing. And I connected with the race staff. They became friends. Came back the next year, just missed the record. Came back the year after that. I broke my record, ran 221. I mean, 221, there's like almost 3,000 feet of vert on this marathon. It's like
Wow.
super hilly. It's humid. It's hot. And I was just like floating out there. And it was such a special experience. The next year, they were like, let's get rid of the prize purse. Let's do more in the community. I was like, perfect. I want to do more. I went out for 2 weeks. I was sponsored by Newton Running at the time. They donated literally hundreds of pairs of shoes. I went to every school on the island, talked about the health and wellness of running, gave out shoes to a few different communities. I was so special. Then we did a keiki run where now I dress in a chicken suit and I go out and I lead these kids runs on the island, and now like this year, like I did it with both of my boys. They were like doing the kids run. We get 200 kids moving and like doing a sport. It's so much fun. So yeah, each year I go out and I'm like really connected with the race. I do some talks, I lead a fun run, lead the kids run, try to connect with the community. And then I try to rip it in half and run as fast as I can. I have both course records. I've won every year. This year, CJ Albertson beat me by a handful of seconds. I had a big lead the whole race, and he got me in the last 0.1.
It's not a bad person to beat you. I mean, like CJ Albertson's, that's crazy. Wow.
I was pretty frustrated with this year being like the year of seconds. Like the number of times I've gotten second place is almost 50% of the races I did in 2024. So I do think a little bit of a mistake was as a little too much of a generalist of like, I didn't maybe focus quite enough on like the VK distance, or I didn't focus enough on the half marathon distance. And then I ended up continuously getting second. Mm-hmm. And it's something I want to do a better job this year is having targeted seasons where I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a track athlete and get really fast, get my VO2 max really high, and then prepare me perfectly for a trail season and be fully trail, and then get back to the road.
Gotcha. Yeah, the in-between has got to be more difficult as opposed to just doing like I don't know, like I can't compare my season, but like mine's a little bit different where I'll just do like right now I'm in a 10K block, right? Try to hit my 10K PR, just build as much, but like I'm not married to it like someone that is going to go compete. Like me, I'm just ready to like, let me just go run, I don't know, underneath 34 or 35 minutes in the 10K. Like that's my goal for that. But like other than that, I just want to have trail fitness. That makes the most sense. Whereas like you're somebody that competes at both. Whereas like the best I'm doing is competing in the trail. So it's a little bit different. But dude, that's a perfect marriage where I think you can absolutely, go dominate. Let me ask you this. So besides Broken Arrow, Sunapee and what was it? GoPro, what else do you have planned for this year for at least the trail season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that out and see what races make sense. Honestly, I don't really want to go to Sunapee as my first trail race.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what in April or May would be kind of good tune-up races for that. Mm-hmm. So I haven't quite figured that out yet. So April and May are a little undecided. Before that, I want to do the track, get really fit for running fast, as you kind of just mentioned. And then July, August is another question. I think Rendezvous Mountain's a great one. Love it. Would love to go back again. So that's early August. Be great to find something in July. I haven't done any of the Cirque Series races. I
Oh,
think there's a
dude.
few ones in July. So
Yeah, yeah.
that might be an opportunity. And then it also depends on if I make Worlds. So if I make Worlds, what I might do is actually after uh, Broken Arrow's last one, take a small break and then start building towards
Yeah.
Worlds.
Speaking of Worlds, let's talk about your race in Italy, because that was that was a proper VK course. Like, can you talk about your experience there, how the race went, preparation for it, and was that the first time you've ever represented Team USA on the trails?
So it was first time I ever
Okay.
represented Team USA.
Okay.
It's funny. I talked to Lauren Gregory, was on the team, and we were joking afterwards. She's like, "Wait, so the first US team you did, you come to Italy, you hike upstairs for 30 minutes, and you have a bunch of Italian girls yelling 'die, die, die' at you." And I was like, that was like exactly a representation of the race. It was so steep. So it was 2.2 miles and 3,300 feet elevation gain. And it was mostly like stairs, and you just like went between little villages. So it was hard to understand how much to like power hike versus run. And in hindsight, I should have ran more. I think that was a lesson I learned, but I felt like I competed to my fitness level. It was time trial format, everyone 30 seconds apart, which was fascinating. So yeah, it was a great experience. Loved it. Team USA was awesome. Christian Allen, Joe Gray, amazing teammates to be on a team with. And it inspired me so much. I'm like, I need to have a focus on making the world team, because competing on a team is by far the pinnacle of the sport. There's nothing more fun than being with teammates trying to beat other teams.
Oh yeah, dude. Does Joe like pull you guys aside and like talk strategy? That's what I've heard like from people, that like Joe is the ultimate competitor in strategy wise.
He did it on this one, but this one was a little less formal of a team.
Yeah, it's more individual.
Worlds.
Yeah.
But like he was already talking about Worlds next year. He's like, "Hey, we got to get the best team together. We can do this, guys." So
that's amazing.
It'll be exciting.
Dude, is it true? Did Christian Allen run in Alpha Flies? I saw like videos of him running, and it looked like he was running in Alpha Flies for the VK, and I was like, that's just a strange shoe choice.
I think it might have been a modified streak fly.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah.
What did you run in? What shoe choice did you use for that?
The Merrill Skyfire 2.
Okay, great shoe.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk sponsorship, because you have this like such a hybrid approach and have come from the roads where the sponsorship world is very different than the trails. I know you were running with, or are running with, Rabbit and Merrill. Is that correct?
Was
Okay.
nothing right now. Well,
Nothing. Okay.
questionable right now. So
Okay, still figuring it out.
yeah, it's a great question and story, because the way it happened was super organic. Merrill was through a connection, or sorry, Rabbit was through a connection. I've been with Rabbit for over 6 years. I love the brand. The apparel is absolutely fantastic. They're now also pivoting into shoes, so that makes some complication with also having a shoe sponsor. So we're trying to work through that. Merrill saw the Rendezvous Mountain result and was like, "Hey, you wore our shoes. We love this. Let us send you shoes for you and the family." It was like the sweetest thing. And it led to a contract for the next year. But it was unfortunately only 1 year contract, and then it's renewals and all of this stuff that not my favorite part of the game, because I really just like having a great community and being supported by a brand and being really connected and having a long-term partnership. So 1 year renewals are really hard, I feel like.
Yeah, it's not that fun. Have to go through it and have to figure it out year over year over year. So, okay, so that's interesting that you're trying to figure out. So you're open then now to a potential new shoe brand, which is exciting. Yeah, okay.
It is. Yeah.
All right, cool. So we'll put that out.
I like your positive enthusiasm.
No, exciting. I was thinking we'll put it out positively to the world, and hopefully we can get some brands listening to this and get you trying on a couple different pairs of shoes. So it'd be sick.
Well, I've thought a lot about this too. And there's a book, Brad Stulberger wrote, The Practice of Groundedness, and he talks about big redwoods and how they grow really tall, and they're able to do so because of their roots, and their roots connect to each other's roots. So together, they're so much stronger. And I feel like that's what like a sponsorship should be. It's a true partnership where like you're working with the brand, you're elevating their product, you're also supporting getting the marketing and the information about that product out. And then they're helping you run faster and trying to contribute to like, what can we do to support you and your goals? And I'm really excited to have that partnership with the next brand.
Oh man, I'm wishing you absolute best on that. I think you'll land somewhere big, and it'll be exciting. So I'm excited for that announcement to come at some point in time.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Oh, dude. So all right, so we talked about 2025 and goal. Like I'm kind of curious. I want to get in your head a little bit about goals, because you've accomplished, as someone that has accomplished such rarefied air. You've won marathons. You've done a lot on the trail team, or on the trail side, in a very short time, I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to understand, like, what are some future goals that you have, for more specifically for the trail space? Is there any races that pop out to you that you'd be excited to go run? Is there any, I don't know, any stuff in Europe that you'd like to go race? Like a series and all, I feel like for somebody like you would be like, that would be a game changer. Like, is there anything that like kind of draws your attention?
It's a good question. I think number one, making the world team, being on that with Team USA is going to be the top of the list. I've never won a national championship. I've been second in the marathon. I've been second in the vertical mountain running. I've been second a lot of times. So I'd like to win a national championship. So I think those are two big goal ones. In terms of international ones, series and all does seem very interesting. I'm not particularly excited about ones that are like overly technical. I want it to be a little bit more about like fitness and toughness than it is about like downhill descents on sketchy rocks. So trying to find the right ones that fit what I'm excited about is a little bit harder. And then just also balancing that with work and family, like the international trips can be hard.
Yeah.
So Pikes Peak Ascent, definitely one, been one of the best in the US and one of the toughest. So that's on the radar. But it's really about like competing and trying to win, and specifically trying to win a national championship.
Okay. Dude, I like that goal. And the national championship, I feel like, that's going to happen at some point in time. Like that, it has to, I don't know. You and Joe got to figure that one out.
I love Joe Gray. I really want to beat Joe Gray. So there's that.
I've heard a lot of people say that, man. It's been interesting because like you're one of the few people that I've met that can actually like stick with them in a race. So like you keep rolling the dice, and one of these days you'll get it. So yeah, it's gonna be, dude, Broken Arrow, and you never know. Like the crazy thing about Broken Arrow this year that just like blows my mind is now that the 23K is going to be a Golden Trail World Series race, like you're gonna have Remy in the mix, and I wonder if Remy might be like, let me try that VK or that Ascent, because he's a naturally he's an uphill runner, like that's his jam. So I wonder if because he did it at Mammoth, so I wonder if he would be someone that would mix it up. And Patrick's going to come back, I would imagine, because it's going to be a WRMA or WMRA race. Patrick will be in the mix, so you guys should have up front like a extremely deep contingent of men to race against. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, because I think about like Loon Mountain, if one of those guys, if Remy or if Patrick was in it, like they might have helped pull me so far ahead that I would have been okay, instead of running kind of in this like, am I running too hard? Am I not running hard enough? How hard should I run this? So yeah, it'll be interesting for the VK.
Yeah, there's even a deep cut from a couple years ago at Sunapee. What's his name? Alex Rickard. He's I know he's friends with Adam Campbell. I think he might run for the North Face. Doesn't show up to too many races, but when he does, he beat Joe at Sunapee a couple years ago. So it's just going to be, he's signed up for Broken Arrow. So yeah, I just think that I am absolutely astounded by the depth of people. Like, should everybody show up healthy and actually able to get there? Yeah, that'll be one of the most, if not the most competitive race on American soil that we've had to date, which would be pretty dope.
That'd be cool. Be fun to be a part of it.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. That's cool. All right. So we kind of covered, I feel like we covered a lot of stuff, man. All right. Let's get into some questions now. If I feel like we haven't, if I have to backtrack, I'll backtrack if any new questions come to me. But I'm kind of curious to see who inspires you.
A couple. My wife Kristen is just like amazing, and she handles a lot she fell in love with the sport of running when her and I had met about 10 years ago. And it's just fun to see her pursue her goals and have that commitment and dedication. And I'm really looking forward to tonight after the boys go down and being able to chat running with her. We haven't caught up, and it's just really, because I've been traveling for the last couple of days, it's just really fun to see that purity of it and doing it because you love it, and that being running and setting goals. And then my coach, Steve Jones. I mean, He was fearless. He was a tough competitor. When he ran 207 at Chicago, he went out in 101.43 when his half marathon PR was 101.40. And that kind of just like toughness and dedication has inspired me a lot. And I'll never forget sitting down with him after I think it was the first year I was with him. And I had run a handful of races in a row, won Naples half, won the Great Aloha Run. I was like, I'm great. I'm on the right trajectory. I'm winning races. I'm feeling good. And we sat down for coffee and he was like, "You're totally missing the boat." He's like, "I want you to be aggressive in workouts." He's like, "I want to see you blow up, push past your limits and find out what they are." I did that. And then I took my half marathon PR from 104.59 to 103.16
Wow.
and competed like at the front of a national championship. And if it wasn't for him of that pursuit of, you got to challenge yourself in every workout, like make it happen. I definitely wouldn't have accomplished what I have in the last handful of years. And he still inspires me. And I still think, even if he's not on the bike next to me in every workout now, I still think about kind of the Jonesyisms that he throws out.
The Jonesyisms. Dude, I love that answer. That's a good one. Wow. It's always interesting to see how people tick and see like what inspires different people. And that's a really good answer. Do you, all right, we're gonna go one more deeper here. What's your walkout song? Like what's the song playing in your head? I know you probably don't race to music because nobody really does that, but like what's the song you're getting pumped up to before a race?
Song Born to Win. I listened to it on repeat before when I ran 2:12 in the marathon and finished second at the national championships. And I took second, so I didn't win, but the lyrics and the song, just like, it's the right like vibe and cadence. I'm blanking on who the artist is, but a phenomenal song. That's what I'd walk out to.
I like it. All right. We can get into some funny questions now. It's interesting to me because you have a data guy, work in machine learning. What is your take on like, this is a deep one. This is not running related. I just like to ask people this question because I work in corporate finance and there is a good degree of, I wouldn't say machine learning, but a lot of data behind it, data science with some machine learning we're getting into. What is your take on like how because especially, all right, sorry, this is a very loaded question because you are a dad and you have young ones that are going to be entering the workforce in the future, like way down the line. What do you think it's going to be like with that world with AI kind of taking jobs and growing to such a place where it's either going to really help us or it's going to completely fundamentally change the way we view and think about anything and everything? Sorry, very loaded question, but I'm just very curious to get your take on this.
Yeah, the AI is a paradigm shift for really the world's economy. What it's able to do, the efficiency gains. There was something I had to do for work earlier that was basically like ended up being a 40-page document. Had I wrote it all from scratch, I would have been 24/7 for 4 straight days in order to get this done. Instead, it took me about 4 hours and I nailed it. And it was like, ChatGPT can get you a lot of the way there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just like an example of letting it be a superpower for you. And I think the folks that learn how to use it to make them super powerful are going to be like the next greatest tech contributors, and instead of it replacing their jobs. So I think you got to look at it as another tool in the tool set from whatever business you're in and how you can utilize it most efficiently. I think it's going to be fascinating for like my boys when they're 20, like where is autonomous driving? Like how is fast food being served? And like what are entry level jobs? Because I do think AI is going to end up taking a lot of those. It's really going to be a fascinating time to see how this shifts. And from my perspective on the energy side, you need the data centers to be able to like run a lot of this AI, and that growth is going to have to happen. You're going to need more renewables in order to be able to match that goal. And the tech companies want clean energy to support it. So the energy side is fascinating how that's going to change. So it's a really exciting time. That's probably a long-winded, kind of complicated answer, but I think you got to learn how to use it to the best of its capabilities. And where I'm particularly excited is I think there's a lot of innovation that can happen in the medical science with AI.
Yes.
And I think that hopefully there's some way new innovations in cancer treatments and others that come from this new technology. So yeah, exciting times in my opinion.
Oh, I think so too, man. It's interesting to see like where it's one of the things. So from the energy perspective, because I've read a lot about tech companies wanting to basically build and implement like nuclear power plants to run these data centers. Is that like a real thing? Is that like really what they're going to plan to do? Or
Nuclear is a bunch of policy type challenges. Nobody wants even a small nuclear reactor in their neighborhood. So,
right.
That's going to be a challenge. But in terms of baseload clean energy, it's perfect. Solar and wind don't provide, consistent 24/7. So then you have to do matching with batteries. And battery technology is improving and battery costs are coming down. And, there's a lot of opportunity there to be able to site solar, wind, and batteries. But nuclear has an opportunity, and it'll be really interesting to see how the technology and the political framing of that works out.
Interesting. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a great conversation. You are an amazing human. I'm so blown away by you to be able to just balance so much as an athlete at the highest level, as a father, and in one of the coolest jobs of anybody that I've spoken to so far. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope this is the first of many conversations down the line.
Yeah. Pleasure being on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. What'd you guys think? Oh man, what a fun episode. I want to thank Tyler so much for coming on the podcast. This was such a great conversation for me. I mean, Tyler is just one of those people that he just really inspires. I mean, you can be any person and be inspired by someone like Tyler. He competes at the top of the sport. He's a freak athlete, but even more so, he's a professional in what he does when he's in the office. And he's also a family man. So the guy balances it all. He does it all. And so with that, he's definitely someone that just truly inspires me. So guys, I hope you took a lot away from this episode. If you happen to be on Instagram, do me a favor, hop on and give Tyler a follow. You can find him by typing in Tracky, Track, T-R-A-C-K-T-Y. So Track Ty. You can also type in Tyler McCandless. That's McCandless. You could probably find him that way. But like I said, his handle is Track Ty. Guys, if you enjoyed this one, please do me a favor, share it on Instagram, as well as give us a 5-star rating and review. Would really genuinely appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It's how we can continue to interview some of these amazing athletes and cover our great sport. We definitely have a lot of stuff that's coming around the corner. In fact, this upcoming Friday, we are going to be announcing the sponsor for the Steep Stuff podcast, or one of the sponsors for the Steep Stuff podcast for 2025 that I'm so excited to bring you guys. Should come as no surprise as to who it might be, as they've sponsored some stuff in the past for me. So really stoked to finally make that announcement and start bringing you guys ads. You're going to be so excited for that, I bet. Guys, like I said, please 5-star rating and review. Love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Have a great rest of your week. Keep a lookout for Friday's episode with none other than Arc'teryx athlete, Mr. Jesse McCulley. Absolute stud. Was on the podium last year at Mount Marathon. So excited to have a conversation with him. Have a great rest of your week.